Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 8 of TempoCast, the weekly podcast by TempoStorm.com. I am your host, Nocturne, joined here today, as always, by the lovely face of Karmah. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Now, unfortunately, we do not have PJ this week. He's at a role-playing convention, going to meet his future wife. Probably some cosplayer somewhere. So instead we've brought in our first repeat guest. You know her from her Twitch famous stream, Karmah. Welcome.
Hi everyone. Hi guys.
So how have you been? As I said, you're actually our first repeat guest. So what's been going on since you were on last? I heard you cheated on us with another podcast.
I did. I was on the Angry Chicken this week. And I have been talking to teams recently. So, not much yet.
Okay. So
hopefully something soon.
Right, so you're hoping to realize that dream of being a pro player, I guess, as opposed to a
Maybe.
pro streamer.
We'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Fingers
Have you been
crossed.
picking up your tournament attendance a little bit in preparation as well, or?
Yep. I'm working on getting back into tournaments because I've been really busy lately. And I'm going to take the summer off from school. Usually I take summer classes. So,
Alrighty.
I'm going to try and do that. Enter some more tournaments and see what I can do. Maybe make a little bit of a splash.
Bit of a splash, that would be nice. We actually don't see many... we don't see many females in tournaments. There you go, I'll say it. And so it would be nice to have a bit of representation there, wouldn't it?
Not that I know of, anyway. I've talked to some other girls in the scene, and we were talking about it actually in the Angry Chicken this week. And it just seemed to have the girls that had been in tournaments have just, grown impatient with,
with the general
the scene
and
yeah, basically.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a repeat. You see the same faces, and it does seem like a bit of an in crowd. So I think
Someone's
breaking
gotta
into
put
that.
their head.
Well, I just think breaking into that is super tough, and it probably a bit clicky as well.
I would agree. Yeah. Someone's got to put their head down and do it, though.
Yeah, that's right. Someone's got to break through that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And Karmah, just an update from you. You graduated this week, I believe.
I did.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm done
From
with high school
Hearthstone
now,
University.
Yep. Hopefully I can just spend like the next 4 months before I go off to live in a tiny ass room and pay a ridiculous amount of money for school. Hopefully the next like 4 months I can develop a stream and try to play more tournaments.
That's excellent. That's a good plan. And one that I am actually echoing. I also have news. I quit my job this week, and I'll be streaming full-time from 2 weeks from now for at least a couple of months, just while I get my life together.
Wow.
Like I'll ever do that.
Congrats or good luck, both.
Yeah, thank you. So it's been a big week for esports, big week for Hearthstone. Probably the most pressing thing that I want to get to is this issue of the new Cosmetic Heroes. So for those of you who don't know, 2 days ago, the Blizzard previewed a new hero. It was with the warrior class icon. So there was a bit of speculation about exactly what it was going to be. Is it going to be a new hero with a new hero power? The answer to that is absolutely not. It is a cosmetic change to the warrior class. Role players out there might know who Magni Bronzebeard is. I have no idea. But apparently that's the character, and it basically just replaces your hero portrait. It doesn't do anything to the cards. You have a slightly different animation for the hero power, but it's exactly the same hero power, i.e. gain 2 armor for 2 mana. There are a few different emotes, so 6 different emotes, taking up each of the slots of the previous ones, and that is it. Guess how much it costs, guys?
$10.
$2.
What is all that worth?
I would say like $1.
Well, that's the thing that gets to me. Do you guys think it's good value? Is that the sort of thing that you want to pay $10 for?
I think it should actually cost way more because like the whole point of cosmetic things is you get to be like, look, I'm so cool. I have all this money I can spend. If it costs like $500, then you could like rich people could be like, look at how wealthy I am, like the Tesla card back. But here it's like everyone has $10, so it's not like a huge deal, so it doesn't even matter. So why would you buy it? It needs to cost either like 99 cents or $500. There's no like in between.
I like your idea of driving up
$500.
the price. Yeah, just making it a premium product.
I don't know. I can see why some people would like it, I guess. I'm not in the favor of it. I mean, I think it's cool. I guess they're adding like new heroes in a way, and they're gonna bring like I guess a little bit of a flavor, kind of like golden cards. They're just gonna make different golden heroes, kind of like that type of thing. But it's just not my style. I probably will not do it. I would rather have them. Like, if I had a choice between having them do this or putting out new cards, I would choose new cards every time.
Right, that's the thing that bothers me because it's like, what cost has come to get this cosmetic out there? I don't think it takes much to do a new hero portrait and 6 new voice lines. So I will grant the fact that it's not going to take. It hasn't taken up much development time. But it's kind of annoying that this gets prioritized over things like new deck slots and, you know, the things that the community has been crying about for you know, months. Mm-hmm. And I think the community cries a lot about a lot of things, and it annoys me just as much as the next person. But I think some of their complaints are legitimate, or at least some of their wants. I am specifically thinking here of like deck slots.
Why do you want new deck slots? Just out of curiosity.
So that every time I do an adventure, if I want to stuff around with new cards, I don't have to deconstruct one of my existing decks. Because I always have 9 constructed decks on the go, and probably, you know, 7 of them are meta decks, and then the other 2 are just testers. And every time I want to do a new test, then it really annoys me that I have to deconstruct either a meta deck or a deck that I am in the process of testing, and I'm not 100% sure of the deck list at all times. So it is like, I usually deconstruct a constructed deck. Okay. But yeah, it just takes time out of my day, and I don't really need that.
The reason I ask is because, like, for me, I usually only have like 3 or 4.
Right.
And then, like, the other 5 are just like bull crap, you know? So, if, I was just asking, everyone's different, you know? So, I don't know. Personally, I don't think that we need extra deck slots, but I also don't see the problem in adding them either, so.
Right.
I think another really big problem is like when you're playing online tournaments and you like want to have like, or like even tournaments like different specifications, you want to have like tournament deck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you also want to have your ladder decks, and just like 9 is probably too few. I think there should definitely be a cap. Like there's no need to have like a ridiculous amount, but I think like increasing it a little bit would definitely just be like really easy convenience measure.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be 100 or, you know, 1,000 or unlimited. It could be double. I could definitely do with 18. I like the idea of doing 2 to 3, like making each class have a couple of deck slots each. So, you know, you can pick a couple of different mage decks, that kind of thing. I just think like with the tack that Blizzard's taken, specifically with their expansions, like the adventures, if you want to, like they require that you create a new deck to beat the bosses, especially on heroic, and that's when I start eating into my meta decks and my ladder decks, and I don't like that either. So even just a couple of extra slots would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be good to have like a separate section for tournaments. I didn't think of that. I agree.
Also, like with the hero skins, I really like one of my favorite things about Hearthstone cosmetic things is that they used to be like really only based on in-game achievements, like golden hero portraits, legend card back, like seasonal card backs, things like that. And I think so since they already make a decent amount off cards and stuff, like obviously a company always want to make more money, but I think there should be a divide between like cosmetic things being related to skill or like achievements. Like there's so many ways that you could get you cosmetic things, like arena, like certain amount of wins, like 1,000 wins in ranked play. Like they need to start awarding in-game stuff because a lot of people are losing interest rather than just coming out with more like pay models.
They could add different golden skins for your warlock too. Like maybe if you get to like 750 wins, you can choose a silver version, or you unlock. Like in Heroes, they have different colors you can choose from. Maybe something like that to add, like, just when you get 500, it doesn't just stop at the golden hero. Like, you can add a little flavor. Maybe change colors, something like that, where you don't get, like, you could get colors other than just golden, or change your, you can maybe change, like, the hero power, have different options, like, choose your own style or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well, Karmah. Like, the current cap at 500, you can get to 500 wins and then you go, what next? You know, I've got a cosmetic hero, I've got a golden hero. What can I do next? And it kind of feels like there are people that just don't play classes that they have golden heroes in to play other classes because they just don't see the point. So I think I feel like a progression of, you know, at 500 you unlock the X and then 750 and then 1,000, and you could literally just go on forever. You could make each range 500 wins, and then you only have to come up with 3 or 4 more cosmetic changes. I think, look, if we're to get back to the release this week, I think this is too expensive. I think $10 is ridiculous. It sort of annoys me. I think $10 is a bit greedy, and I think it's a tester from Blizzard, and they are testing the community to see what they can get out of them. And for that reason, I won't be buying it, because I don't really support that as a model. If there are, you know, this is one of 9 heroes, alternate heroes supposedly coming out. That means that we're up for $90 to get the full set. And I don't want their sales figures to read that in this first week after they released it, you know, they beat all of their predictions for how many they sold. I want them to go, gee, we didn't sell that many, maybe we have to drop the price. Maybe it's price related.
Do you guys think it was kind of weird that they led, or they like teased with the dwarf dude? Like, he's a lesser known character. He's a dwarf, so he doesn't really fit flavorfully because like all the cards are orcs, or like weapons used by orcs. So like I think he's definitely one of the less cool ones, probably, hopefully. So like it's kind of weird that they led with him and didn't tease like an Eridar demon for like instead of Gul'dan or something like that. That would have gotten a lot more hype. Unless all the other ones are like either awful or not developed yet. Did they say if they're releasing them all at the same time or like one by one?
I know they specifically said they're not releasing them all at once.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
Yeah, Zariah said that they don't want to bundle them together, so there's not going to be even any option to buy all 9 of them as, let's say, $30, which someone might be able to find it worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Do you guys think it would be cool if they let you choose a card animation from the hero and let that be your picture, and they had their own emotes and stuff like that? Would that change your mind at all, or is it just the whole having a different hero thing lame?
Well, you could be Jiraxis and then play Jiraxis.
Yeah.
And then turn into Jiraxis.
Or you could be like Huffer for Hunter, or like armor smith for warrior or something like that, and then it'd be a girl's voice, or like something like that.
Sure, I think if they release enough of them, then I would, like, there's enough choice that I felt that picking something determined, like, displayed my personality in the game, then that's why I would go for it.
Like Huffer? Would
like
you
Huffer.
be a Huffer?
Yeah, that's exactly what I am, because I always go face. I'm all about that face.
I would be Huffer too. Who wouldn't want to be Huffer? That would be so awesome.
Exactly. Who would you be, Kamsh?
That's so hard. I'd probably be... That's such a hard question, though. I'd probably be Deathwing, because he would, like, kill me before I had to roleplay and pick who I would be.
I feel like between this and your answers last week, you've got a bit of a crush on Deathwing, mate.
Deathwing is so cute.
So cute, but also burns your face off.
Actually, Nosdorm is my favorite card in Hearthstone, so I would be
his voice, isn't it?
Nosdorm, yeah, that'd be good. I think, like, so I'm a big supporter of cosmetics because To me, things that you pay for that don't change the gameplay, I agree with. Like, I don't want games to be pay to win, and I don't think Hearthstone is pay to win at the moment. There are a lot of people that disagree with me. You have to pay some money to get certain cards, but if you want to climb the legend ladder, for instance, you can not spend very much money or just spend a fair bit of time getting the cards for Face Hunter or whatever. But yeah, so I support, for instance, in Dota, I've played, 1,500 hours of Dota, and I have bought a fair few cosmetic items because there are so many, and there are like 100 heroes, and picking a hero and buying a cosmetic item for a hero that you like is sort of a representation of your personality or how you like to play the game, or that's what I view it as, and I'm happy to throw money at it that way. But I feel like paying for like one of 9 classes where they're going to release one for everyone, and then most people will, like some people will just buy all of them and some people won't buy any of them. It's just like, it doesn't have the same level of worth for me as something like Dota does.
Something I really like is like build your own game board where you have like a blank one that you can choose to go to, and then you can like buy different things or build it up differently, like however you want. You have like different things you can interact with, and then your opponent only sees your half, and they have like whatever half they want. That'd be pretty cool.
Ooh.
That would be
So
another
your
cosmetic
opponent
thing
sees
to
your half
explore.
of your game board.
Yeah, yeah. And then like you could build up whatever you wanted, and then it would just be split in half for you and your opponent. So like I don't know, that's another like cosmetic thing they could explore.
Interesting.
Explain that again.
So like you have a game board, right? And they have like let's say like 50 different things you can buy and like place, and it has like 5 slots or something, and you place them wherever you want, and then your opponent sees like
okay.
you and then has the things, and you see your opponents, and like it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice. That is pretty cool. You can create your own like play board or something like that.
The other thing, we're just having a few comments about saying that this cosmetic thing is costing development time. That's not what I'm saying at all. But Blizzard can only release so many things. They're not going to release something new every week because otherwise that just devalues each release. They want each release to be significant in its own right. And so I'm saying something like deck slots, which might or might not be done by the same team, is something that I would prioritize in a time sense over this sort of cosmetic. I would like that as soon as possible.
I agree.
Okay. Well, that was interesting and quite contentious. Speaking of interesting and quite contentious, GosuGamer has released their latest player rankings this week. So they're the latest Gosu rankings, and they're basically a ranking of all the different players that play Hearthstone, and then they also have a team ranking, but that's done by a different algorithm. They talk a lot about how their algorithm determines who is ranked what, and basically it rewards consistency over a longer period of time. So your results from the last 6 months do feed into this month's rankings. Yeah, the latest one came out last week. What do you guys think of it?
I don't know, like I think it's really, really hard to objectively rank things in like card games because even if you have like percentages, like you have cold hard stats and win rates and stuff, there's a lot of RNG and like it's too short of a period of time to be able to rank someone. I think the only way to do it properly is by like all-time win percentage if the person's been playing for at least a year, or the team's been playing for at least a year, and to do it that way. Otherwise, I don't think it's consistent enough to mean anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't personally like a ranking system at the moment. I guess although ironically, if I were to rank them personally, I would probably put most of the players up there. But I think it's just you just don't have enough information. The card game is too RNG dependent to be able to accurately make a mathematic, projection of people.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it's a good it's a good discussion point, right? Because it's like it does open up all those points like about there's a significant amount of RNG in the game. Not everyone plays all the same tournaments. There are geographical considerations. There's different tiers here for the different events, and so winning something with more players in it is worth more, and with a higher prize pool as well. So I think it's like a good way to just review the last month of tournament play, I guess. But I agree. I don't think it necessarily says you can point to someone at any point and just be like, you are the best player of Hearthstone. Because even if technically they are, or lots of people say they are, then it really doesn't translate into tournament wins the way that it does in something like tennis or, you know.
The only one that can say
sport.
that is Firebat, just because he's the world champion.
Right.
So he's good for like 2 months.
That's right. He's got 2 months where he can
Till he
wander around
wins
with his world champion shirt, his belt. I think what they've done is someone like Kalento, for instance, is well thought of as one of the best players in the world. But this ranking is more a reflection of tournament results. So you see the top 3 at the moment, as said by this ranking feature. Firebat is number 1. Strifecrow number 2, and then Life Coach is number 3.
I also think it's weird how Gosu like ranks their tournaments tier 1 through 3, because even though like they do it based on prize money or whatever, like tier 3 still has all the pro players playing in it, so like the pool of players is the same, so it's weird to rank one tournament higher than the others just because it has a higher prize pool if it has the same level of competition.
Yeah, I didn't understand that portion of the article. I don't know. Why would you classify... Exactly. Why would you classify different tournaments based... So I guess they're only basing it money value?
I think it's money value, and then like if you're invited, like how many rounds you have to play, I think, is definitely one of the things.
Is it also geographical? Like, I saw on their the HyperX tournament is tier 3. Were there any NA players in that, or was it just NA, or was it just EU? I don't even remember that one, honestly.
Like the HTC Invitational is also tier 3, and it has the EU and NA players, which is like weird.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And yeah, the HyperX head-to-head had NA players. Dog was in it.
Well, the Korea Masters is tier 2, and that is just Korea. So that gives you an indication that geographical considerations aren't really taken into account in the tiering system. The other thing is, like, Kinguin Pro League, for instance, was played over like a lot of weeks. Like, that took a long time to get to where they actually had a winner. So to me, the number of rounds would be the thing that would indicate the highest tiering. But that's at tier 2, when House Cup, which was played over a weekend, was tier 1.
I love those tournaments, by the way.
The House Cup tournaments?
Yeah, I think they're the best tournaments by far.
Is it because you like Frodan cosplaying?
Yes, it's absolutely because Frodan cosplays. And because I just think like there's the entertainment value of taking them and putting them in a house where they're playing against each other all day. I don't know. And they're in a castle and it's scenic and they have a really great production crew. I don't know. I just think they're best. Plus, they had the sex coach intro. That was like the greatest thing I've ever seen in Hearthstone. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was amazing.
I did, yeah, I did. They had some pretty cheesy intros for all of the players, right? And that was his going into the finals video, if I remember
And good
correctly.
on him for that, too. Like, to be able to spin it that way. Or not spin it, but be able to take it and laugh about it a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I watched his AMA after he did it on his stream, and he's the most adult person in esports, like,
for sure.
Which is, well, there aren't many adults in esports.
And he has such a great personality, too. He's so emotional about the game. Like, when he's, like, his stream is so entertaining. He's always yelling and, like, his German, like, screams, and he's, like, deep in thought every single play. I don't know. I just think he's great for the scene. Just coming from poker, I'm so glad he came over.
I totally agree. I really love Life Coach. I think he's fantastic.
I hope I get to meet him someday.
While we're still on this topic for a bit, how many of you guys have heard of Team Millennium HS?
Nilium?
No, Millennium.
Millennium.
Nope.
Do we want to talk about the team rankings?
Have you heard of players Best Marmot, Torque, Milithium, Maverick, or Origin?
No.
Okay, well, this team is ranked above TempoStorm in the Gosu team rankings.
I think you're a bit salty there. Well, let's talk about the team rankings, because the team rankings do not have the endorsement of this famous algorithm, the GosuGamer's algorithm, and it's more of a subjective thing that is determined by them taking the rankings of individual players and then aggregating them up into a team ranking.
But that's also not fair because more teams have more players than others, right?
Yes, I imagine there's an averaging out, but because I'm not on the GosuGamer staff, I have no idea how they do it. Because, for instance, like Cloud9 is at the top, whereas like Team Archon, who has like 15,000 members, they're third. So, yeah, I don't know.
Cloud9 isn't actually super behind Archon in number of players, though.
Cloud9 does have a few players, don't they? They do.
They did, I think. But I think they have 6.
They have Nimsh, Ecop, Hafu, who doesn't play tournaments, Strifecrow, Kalento, and Tides.
Yeah, 6. Yep. And then Archon they have
Amaz,
6 as well,
Orange,
I think. And then 2 are coaches. 2 are coaches. So they have 8 or 7, something like that.
Yeah, they have Amaz, Firebat, Backspace, Zixo, Dear Nadia, Purple, Drank, Zolay, and Orange.
I think probably a bit poor for TempoStorm, but they've fallen 4 places to this Millennium team. So who was in the Millennium team, Kamsh?
Best, Marmot, Toric, Melithium, Maverick, and Origin, and none of them have pictures or like bios on Gosu.
But they're ranked on Gosu? It's the ladder? Or a ranking system?
Their team is. I don't know if they are. They're like really high in Europe, so I guess they only play like European tournaments, and that gives them a good world ranking.
Right.
How can your team be ranked if your team rank is based on your players' win percentage and your players aren't on the GosuGamer's ranking system? How does that work?
Hold on. I can check the Euro rankings for their players real quick, or I can just check the overall rankings. So let's Control F here while you guys talk about things and figure this out.
Well, look, I think TempoStorm is down there for a reason, and the reason is they don't have particularly many players. They don't have a strong representation at tournaments at the moment. Reynad hasn't.
They're also small.
They're also quite small. Yeah.
They only have two players, not including reynad. So.
Right. Like reynad is still a player, but I definitely don't think that he thinks of himself as a player first and foremost, especially after what he said last week.
Okay, I have results, guys. So 4 of them are not in the top 50, but Maverick is 11th in the world right now.
Right. So
okay.
Perhaps they're being.
So they are ranked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's carrying.
He's carrying the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is even more subjective than the individual rankings, as we were saying. Or maybe it's not. Maybe when you average out over a whole team, you actually get a more worthwhile view of how the teams are doing.
It's hard to do such a team game in an individual-based performance.
That's right.
Also, like Hearthstone is so. I mean, yes, to prepare, you have to have a team and friends and stuff that you test with, but in the moment when there's that much pressure on you and you're in the tournament, you have to make decisions yourself.
Right.
Well, in LAN tournaments anyway. So, I don't know. It's hard to also have a team value based on individual performance. Or performances.
Right.
They're shooting pretty high, or trying to hit a pretty high ceiling here. This is not an easy thing to try and evaluate.
No, I
would have
agree.
a hard time. I would have an extremely difficult time of like where to start.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that's like a work in progress. You know, they release it every week, and then hopefully their process gets better and better, and you know they approach perfection more each week, or correctness, I guess, because there is a certain amount of subjectivity to it. I don't think you can ever be like truly 100% objective in saying you are the best team right now, but you know it's gonna get there. Cool. Well, another thing that came out this week was an interview with Eric Dodds, who is the head designer on the State of the Game. It was actually quite a short piece. It was on Games Radar, and it was just sort of asking him a few softball questions, as far as I was concerned, about how he thought the state of the game was going. It really wasn't a hard-hitting interview. But there was one quote in here that I thought was worth discussing, because it was pretty interesting for me. So there was a question around releasing cards, right? And continuing to release cards as they go. And there was a quote in here that says, one of these issues does surround the adding of new cards, because we know we can't just keep adding cards forever.
What?
And I read that and I went, yeah, what? I had that exact same reaction, because he was talking about how in BRM they only released 30 cards, And the reason they did that is not to shake up the meta too much, and pros will take those cards and make the best out of them, and they'll change decks, and that's how it'll work. But he seems to be intimating that these expansions are going to get smaller, like they're smaller and smaller for a reason, because potentially at some point they're going to stop adding cards. Which to me seems crazy, because if you want a game that keeps going on forever and it grows with the scene, you sort of have to add new content. And I don't think Cosmetic Heroes are going to cut it if that's their plan.
Well, also, wouldn't the meta, if you change nothing, become perfected, in a sense? Like, over time, eventually everything would just be, like, made exactly the way. There wouldn't be any text you could make in it. Like, there would just be certain builds that are the best, and you'd never have anything creative or fun if you wanted to be competitive. It would just be the same things over and over and over. I don't see how that would work. So they would have to come up with some sort of solution, and I was telling you guys earlier that I think maybe if they were to do that, maybe one of the solutions would be to remove a section of cards every month or every few months or so to make it a little bit challenging. But I don't know. That would be extremely difficult to do as well.
I think that's a good point, because I think it's possible that what he means is that they can't just keep adding cards forever without taking them away or creating a new format. Because when you keep adding to the card pool, suddenly a new player has 20,000 cards to deal with, as opposed to 500 as we did when we started. So I think like taking away a section of cards, possibly like on a set by set basis. So maybe in 2 years from now, GVG isn't in the meta anymore, and they take that out. They ban all cards from GVG.
Right, something like that.
That speaks to like a format type conversation which we haven't had before, around similar to Magic the Gathering, how you have like a standard pool, which is the most recently released 3 sets, or you have more eternal formats which play with a bigger card pool.
I don't know. Just from like approaching this game, I used to be such a casual. Like I was like a role player. I never played card games before. Like this is my first card game, and I don't know. Trying to split stuff into different categories seems really weird to me. I don't know. But I understand that's how Magic does. I've never played it, but it just seems kind of lame-o. I don't know.
Okay, so you think the idea of taking, like, you just don't see where they would draw the line, I guess, on the next cards to let them in?
Yeah,
or?
I guess maybe because it's so new. Maybe in exactly. Like, when would you? So basically, they would have to create a brand new game, right? Even though it would be like they would have to create a whole new basic card system for the legacy mode, right? That's one of the modes in Hearthstone.
Magic.
Magic.
Yep.
So there would be, I don't know.
Well, legacy would be fairly simple,
though,
because it'd be all the cards ever released. And then you could draw arbitrary lines at certain points and just say, from this expansion onwards is what you can play with. Yeah, you sort of pick ranges. So you say you can play from the years 2014 to 2016 with those cards that we released in those years. And then that's a format.
I think it's a bad comparison to make, though, because, like, in Magic, right, the older formats have more broken cards, and so the size of the card pool doesn't matter because very few new cards get added to the meta. Whereas in Hearthstone, they just patched all the broken cards from the early sets, so like it's still like going to be the same mid-range-ish like grindy game, even if you start separating by format. So you would only separate by format for the sake of variety, not for power level. Because like if they wanted to actually do formats like Legacy, Modern, etc., I think they would have to revert a bunch of nerfs, and then the oldest format would have like old Unleash combo and old like Molten Bounce OTK combo and stuff like that.
Cool.
And it would just be a super crazy format where you could add new cards if they were really good, and then like in other formats you'd have like the nerfed versions, or just not those cards. I think that's what they would need to do, because if they just have like one format where all the cards are allowed, it's going to be like the best mid-range cards, and it'll be boring.
Okay, I take back what I said. That would be awesome. I want old Unleash back. I want the old Molten combo back. That would be so fun.
Please
That make
no.
it the meta so interesting right now. With heal bots, the Molten combo would be so much different now. That would be fun.
I wasn't actually even playing when that was around, so I don't even know if I really want to ever witness
Were
that.
you around? There when I first started playing, there was a combo where on turn 10, you literally played like a bunch of crap and gave it all charge on one turn, and literally one turn killed the person. It was like some hunter combo. Instead of it being unleash, it like gave all your beasts +3 attack and charge or something like that.
Right.
I don't know if either of you guys were around, but it was like crazy. So like young Dragonhawk would be like Wind Furying for like 6 each. It was so fun. It was like broken as hell, but it was so fun.
That's pretty disgusting.
It is. It was disgusting. All the brokenness in one place. That would be great.
Yeah, if you could like cordon that off and just say like the first version of every card was in that set, that'd be a fun format.
Yeah, it'd be like Miracle Rogue with like spare parts versus like Molten Giant combo versus like Hunter combo versus like Blood Imp Zoo, and like it'd be a great format.
Broken Rogue.
And if you want to go and play these disgusting combos somewhere legitimately, you can. You have a place for it. You have an outlet.
8 mana Mind Controls, 8 mana Pyroblasts.
Alex Straza shreds armor.
With
It'd be
Emperor.
great.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that would be so fun.
But I think you're right, Kamsh. They are trying to get pretty much every card on power level, and that's the reason why Magic has cordoned off these different ranges of these formats, because the power level of their early cards is so different to what they are releasing now. But do you think, because when you have a bigger card pool, every card has to be compared to another card in terms of power creep and that kind of thing, do you think you might do it for that reason as well, though?
I think that'd be fine. I think you still have the power level problem a little bit, right? Because I've talked about this a little bit before, but Innervate gets better and better the more cards come out, because the better the card you can innervate, the more powerful Innervate is. It's just like in Magic, there was Black Lotus, which is like Innervate but for 3 mana, and then it got better and better as you had better things to use the mana on. So that could definitely be a thing. I think, yeah, like for variety, you're gonna need to change up cards or like have formats and stuff. I just don't think the format with all the cards will be as cool or as widely played if it doesn't have like I think the format with the smaller card pool will be vastly more popular unless they have more powerful things to do in the format with all the cards.
And I also think the same could be applied to the Hunter Hero Power and the Warlock Hero Power. I think both of those become the same way as Innervate. Just like the more powerful the cards become, the better the hero powers are. And the other heroes wouldn't be able to compete over time if the cards were strong enough.
Well, certainly with Warlock, we've seen there, they seem to be quite careful about the power level they give to Warlock in terms of their class cards. I would say that they're slightly underpowered in comparison to if you try and draw direct comparisons with other cards released in other classes, and that's probably because the power level of the Warlock hero power is so high. Getting card advantage for 2 mana is pretty darn good. If your cards
They still have
awesome.
like the best 1-drop in the game and 2 of the best like 9-drops. I don't like. Obviously, they've been careful, but they haven't been like careful enough, because it's still like it's overrepresented on ladder because it's so strong, and it's like overrepresented in tournaments because it's so strong. So we're already seeing it a little bit, and it will only get worse.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Today was interesting. There was one druid I saw. I watched all of Group A. There were no druids. The first druid was Lead Paint, I think, who got 3-0'd because he just couldn't draw Wild Growth. It's just weird from like a year ago when druid was so strong. And now, after all these updates, like when Firebat won, Druid was really, really good. Like top of the ladder, everybody brought Druid. At least for today, it's just weird not seeing Druid in a tournament. It seems to always have been there, and maybe that's just like an anomaly for today. But it's all Warrior, Hunter, and like a random third class, either Rogue or I guess in Lead Paint's case, Druid. But it seems like Warrior and Hunter are the 2 classes almost everybody's playing now.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, because I think Druid has been it's had a pretty strong showing at tournaments over the last couple of months, certainly up to maybe this month. I assume you're talking about ESL?
Yeah, the ESL, I'm sorry. The Legendary Series second season that's happening this weekend. I just thought that so far today it was just warrior, hunters, and then I think paladin, rogue, and there was one druid. I think there was 2 rogues, 2 paladins, and 1 druid.
Interesting.
But everything else was warrior and hunter. Everyone brought warrior, hunter, and something else, except lead paint, who brought mage and druid and another class. I forget which.
Do we want to talk about ESL then now? Because I haven't actually been able to catch up with much of it this weekend. But how is it going? You're talking about the class distributions there. They're probably a little different to what we're seeing going into other tournaments.
Yeah, it's very, very centered around warlock and warrior. It's like there's a lot of handlock. It's like weird. It's a very control style meta in the tournament that I've seen so far. There really hasn't been any aggro at all. The hunters have been mid range. The warlocks have been handlock. The like 75% of the warriors were were control warrior. I think there was only 1 patron, maybe 2. Again, this was recorded on the first day, so if you guys are listening later, we haven't seen Saturday yet, but just Friday so far.
Yep.
It's just interesting to see warrior that was like one
archetype
stuck
heavy.
in one archetype,
Yeah.
is now like in every sort of tournament situation compared to now Druid's gone, which was like the opposite a year ago, right?
Right. And as I said, I think we did see a long run of Druid for quite some time. Like, it's been quite popular. The class cards are popular in a tournament setting. It's really good because it can just like win games with its combo. So I think it's a really strong tournament choice. It certainly has been coming up to this one. It's interesting that we haven't seen much Patron Warrior though, because that has been far and away the pros' favourite in terms of ladder. Certainly, it's been one of the most dominant decks for the last month or so on ladder, and it's definitely had its showing at tournaments as well. It's done well at tournaments. Is there a reason why there's not much Patron? Is it because it's fairly easily countered, or people are just going soft on the deck, or?
I think part of the reason is that it's fairly easily countered. I think another part is in ESL when you have some of the like qualified players instead of like the top tier pros, and the players are like testing really hard, working towards a tournament. Patron Warrior is a deck that you need to test a lot with if you haven't already played it a lot. It's something you need to be really good at. Like we've seen in some of the like major tournaments, we've seen a lot of people misplay with it, make mistakes, rope, etc. So it's a really risky deck to pick. You have to be super confident in it. And if you haven't already played it a ton on ladder, then you need to like practice it so much that it takes away from the practice of your other decks. So it's just a really like high risk to play it in tournaments.
Right.
Yeah, there are many instances you see players roping out or missing lethal because they're unfamiliar with the exact amount of burst potential that the deck has and the amount of like absurd damage that you can deal on one turn, even when your opponent puts up like 2 or 3 taunts. There was a situation today where Koyuki was playing against Handlock, or actually a Paladin, and I think the Paladin had 3 taunts up, and he had a Death Spite, and he like missed lethal because he thought that he would actually have to clear something, but he ended up having so much damage that if he had just gone face, he would have won the game, and he ended up losing the series, which was unfortunate, but it's just like an example of how hard that deck is to play, and I think part of the reason that it's not in competitive as much is because, exactly like Camp Shed, is that it's easier to counter when you have that high level of understanding of the game, and also because it's very difficult with all that pressure on you and that limited time that you have to try and figure out your play on the spot, I think, as well.
Right. And when you add in the fact that all the cards have some pretty long animations, it can take time to, even once you decide on your play, it can take some time to actually queue it all up as well. So you have to like mechanically be good enough, and after going through the mental processes and working out what it is.
I love how animations, which are supposed to be like, hey, this is a casual game when Hearthstone first came out, are now like a limiting factor in competitive play. It's made such an amazing transition into like a competitive game.
Well, you need that high APM. That's why we're seeing so many StarCraft pros coming in.
I like the animations. I don't think they should get rid of them at all. I think they should keep them. I think that's a really good part of the game,
Right.
of the competitive scene. Is like, yeah, you have an allotted amount of time, but you can't use it all. Like, you have to start doing things until the very. I don't know. I like the animation portion and how it can screw up turns and stuff like that if you take too long. It makes you have a better. Yeah, because it makes you have a better understanding of your deck, knowing your matchup, and knowing like what is the correct play faster, rather than you taking too much time. I don't know. It adds like a extra amount of pressure that I like.
Mm.
Yeah, I do too, and I think they should release like I'd really like to see like a legendary where it has a really powerful effect, but the animation takes like 30 seconds or something, so it rewards you for playing really fast. It's like a competitiveness Dormu. He's so sick.
This is a spoiler alert, but every idea that Kamsh has rewards him for playing his cards out in the first 2 seconds of the turn.
I like to play fast, okay? You gotta go
I
fast.
wish they had a chess mode. I really do wish they had a chess mode.
Yeah, like a chess
Where it was
clock.
like you're rewarded, or like you only have a certain amount of time to play the fruition of the game.
Right.
And then you had 5 minutes total, and you'd be like end. And then the other one would be end. And you'd be like grabbing your cards as soon as, like, it would just be so funny to see someone streaming and like panicking and grabbing their cards, trying to get it like right as the opponent ends turn to save maximum time and stuff like that. I think it would be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd like, it's a 5 minute, you have 5 minutes for the game, and then you get like 2 seconds for every move you make. So you can potentially keep playing forever as long as you can play under 2 seconds.
I don't know, it just kind of annoys me how slow people can be. Like, when I play off stream, I just watch Netflix, and I'm, like, running out of things to watch on Netflix. Even, like, bad things. Because I ladder so much. It's just the worst. People are so slow.
Speaking of ladder, how has it been going for us this week? We saw the new, season come in this month. How did you guys go at the end of last season, and then what's your strategy for moving into a new season?
Salt. Pure salt for me last season.
Really?
I was top 20 the last week, pretty much all last week. Ended up finishing like 130 or something like that, like just off the cusp again. And then the month before that, I was top 10 for 3 weeks. And then again, finished at like 120 or something. I like choked so hard on the last day.
Oh, no.
It sucks.
Is it just you start losing games, or you decay really fast on the last day, right? Because everyone's playing.
I think what it is I don't like the tournament. The thing ended on a weekend this week, and I am busy on weekends typically, just in my life. And I think the meta changes so much day to day that when I come back to a deck that was working like X many days ago, it's not working as well, or I just choke. One of the two. One of the two. It's so frustrating to me, though. Using salt.
It is hard how a lot of it is invested. You know, you can be 3 weeks, you can spend 3 weeks in the top 10, and then the last day get nudged down to 1,000. It's. I think we discussed it last time actually. How frustrating it can be that the last day or the last couple of hours really makes a difference.
Yeah.
My story is not as bad as Karmah's, but like I was lazy like pretty much all month last month, so I was like 2,000 on the last day, and then I laddered for like 16 hours. I got to 87th with an hour left, but then I was like, I'm gonna decay, so I need to play more. And I just like played 2 games and dropped out, so I think I finished like 140th or something.
Right.
But yeah,
it can be difficult because
really
it's high risk, high reward, right? Like even 10 points is going to make a fair bit of difference to your standing once you decay a slight bit before the end of the season. Every game becomes much more important.
Has someone done the math? I really need like a Reddit post on like the average amount of decay per hour on the last day. That was
it's crazy high. I was ranked 14 going into the final weekend, so that was like 3 days before the end. And I went all the way down to 69, ironically, just before the last day. So I lost like 60 spots in 2 days. That is a ton. That's like 5 or 6 games
that is
I decayed.
Yeah, it can be hard though, right? Because there's no like you have no hard definitions of what your like how much you are going to decay. Like it's really hard to tell.
I wish there was some attrition point, like for staying up on a certain portion of the ladder that you got, like, I don't know, if you stayed in your relative bracket that you got X amount of points to stay in that general area of the bracket. Does that make sense? Like you gained some, even though you weren't doing anything just for being that high.
But then wouldn't that create more problems? Because if you have like, if the top 20 or whatever all laddered like within the past hour and like none of them can drop out of that bracket, then like people winning at like 21 just won't like climb.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure there's a problem.
I think
with
it's
it.
hard to like implement that in practice is like the only thing. Like the only way to like fix the crazy decay is like to actually mess with the decay rates themselves and make them like just smaller and give people less for winning and have like equations for that, or just to overhaul the ladder system completely.
I know Gara was saying the other day, like, he feels like he can win 3 games and he'll go up, like, 10 spots, and then he loses 3 games and he goes down 100. Like, losing is a lot more costly than winning is a bonus.
And it's also on the last day, even worse. Like on the last day, sometimes you could be, like, there was a situation where I would be rank, like, you can get super lucky, like, if you're rank 40 and you play a rank 20 and you win,
Yes.
you get, like, awesome amount of points. And then if you play a rank, like, 2000, who's playing, like, some random BS deck that happens to go against your meta deck, you get, like, crapshoot all the way back to, like, rank 2. Well, it's not that dramatic, but you lose so much for losing to, like, a really, really low-ranked legend player as compared to, like, if you get lucky and play a high-ranked legend player in the meta and win. It's unfortunate that it's like that.
So what have you been playing, though, to start this season off? I've been seeing a fair bit of handlock out of you. Surprise, surprise.
Yep. Yeah, I've been playing handlock. I did a lot of rogue. Rogue and handlock. I've been doing pretty well so far, though. Up to rank 5 yesterday. 4 days in, rank 5 isn't bad.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. What about you, Kumsh?
I've played maybe like 4 or 5 hours of Control Warrior ladder on mobile at like grad parties. I think I'm like rank 10 right now. Yeah.
So people are just at the party going, what is Kumsh doing? Is over in the corner thinking that you're like texting your girlfriend or something, but you're actually just quickly getting in a game of Control Warrior.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's an interesting choice, Control Warrior, because like if someone goes, oh, do you want to come have a dance? And you'll be like, just give me 45 minutes. I've just got to finish this one game.
Nah, dude, I could play at the same time. I'm a big fan of multitasking. I just like
Play and dance.
I was gonna say, you're like the world's best multitasker. You're watching Netflix movies while you're climbing. You're at a party playing on your cell phone. I wish I had your talent.
Kumsh never does one thing at once.
Is that a joke? Anyway,
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, I like to play either Warlock or Control Warrior while win streaking is a thing, because it reduces variance and lets you streak, since that's rewarded more than, like, win-loss with, like, Face Hunter.
Yep. Yeah, that's my tactic as well. I think when you've got the chance to win streak, the goal is to be as consistent as possible. And sure, you'll face decks that beat you, but I think it's, even if you get 1 or 2 win streaks in there and you can go for a couple of games, that's pretty valuable, reduces the amount of time you have to spend getting up to rank 5.
that's something I was explaining this week. What you're just saying is that, like, how control decks are better early in the season at rank 5 and higher because of the value of a win at that rank.
Yes.
Just see what you guys think on that.
You're saying the value is fairly high because if you for every game that you win and that you stack up, then
Like there's no win streak anymore, so the star gain is increased. So the level of control decks become more frequent because more people want to win. Does that make sense? Like Face Hunter drops because the amount of games played actually hurts you than because there's no win streak anymore.
Right. Yeah, if you play 100 games at like 52% or whatever with Face Hunter, sure you're climbing, but you're not doing it as fast as the guy who's playing at, let's say, 56% with a control variant because they can get the win streaks up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's my strategy as well. Not to mention, there are a lot of people that still think aggro first out of the gate is the best way to go, and so control I tend to find is the best way to sort of prey on those aggro decks.
Control's also a lot less like mentally fatiguing because even if you play for the same time, you play less games and you go through less like emotional like win loss roller coaster type things. It's a lot more consistent and you just feel like you've played less Hearthstone.
Especially when you're playing on your mobile at a party, am I right?
Hey, you know, whatever.
Is it hard, like, when you're playing at a party to just, like, because obviously you need two hands for the phone, and then how do you, like, keep the girls at bay?
Okay, like one thing is like we were like 2-3 days ago. I don't know, my timeline's really shaky. We were like on a field for like senior. We all slept over on the football field, so like some people were sleeping, other people were like running around yelling, some people were passed out. So you just like go in a tent, like play for a bit when you're like feeling tired of the outside atmosphere or something. And then like yeah, like I didn't just like go sit in a corner when people were talking to be like fuck you guys, I'm gonna go play Hearthstone. Like I just like when I'm bored or whatever.
He could slow dance. Like he could slow dance with someone, have the app like
just
the
have it
phone
over
like
the
above the
shoulder.
shoulder, and you could just be like, yeah. I can see how it works.
Well, there's some news. There's some pretty big news actually from TempoStorm this week.
Oh yeah, there's Heroes of the Storm content now, which is super sweet. There's like an interface for creating like map guides, champion or hero guides, things like that. So basically, it's branching off from being a site like it always had. Like we've had a lot of teams and we've expanded a lot, but usually we've had only Hearthstone content, and now we have some content or like guides and interface for other games as well. Starting with HOTS, since we have a really good Heroes of the Storm team, so it's just a sign of our expansion and more of a gaming hub in general rather than just a Hearthstone site.
Yeah, so I know, Karmah, you've been playing a fair bit of Heroes of the Storm, so
Yeah.
what does this mean for you? Are you going to be posting some guides?
Oh, for sure. I'm addicted to that game. I just got my like 11th master skin or some crap like that. Like I'm addicted. I love that game so much. I've never played MOBAs before this one, so
Right.
I'm a bit of a role player, but I think I'm getting there. I think I'm like almost legendary level. I'm like still role playing a little bit though, but yeah, that's great. TempoStorm adding Here's the Storm guides. Their Heroes team is fantastic, by the way. If you
They're
guys
very
haven't checked
good.
them out, they're very good. And
Reynad says the best in the world in his typical understatement.
very
his
humble
of-
way.
Yeah. I think I probably agree though. They're definitely up there anyway.
Oh yeah, they are.
They're
For
very
sure.
good.
They're
Very good team.
extremely good.
They
Every
just-
time I watch them, they're like sweeping some other team. So
Yeah, that's right. So this is the website. If you guys want to have a quick look at it, there's now Heroes Builder, so you could submit guides for both heroes and for maps. There's also the Hearthstone Deck Builder, which has always been there, and then the top content from last week will be over here on the left. And then if you choose your game, you can do Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm, and sort of go a bit more in depth. So if you wanted to go to Hearthstone, you can do so and have a look into what's been going on here.
good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff.
They're working very hard on their website, which is something like websites are so hard to perfect. It takes a long time for people to get it right, and they're doing a really good job.
I totally agree. I think it's very hard. I think it's a beautiful looking website, while still being functional. So I'm a big fan of it. And this only, will help to drive traffic. Speaking of the website and driving traffic, some of us I had an article this week about the matchup triangle, which is sort of a theory from Magic the Gathering, which is where in Magic, essentially you want to be a little bit slower or a lot faster than any other deck. So basically that means that if decks are winning on turn 3 or 4, if their primary goal is to get out a 3 or 4 drop, and then you play a 5 drop that's bigger, then often you'll be winning, because that's the best way to go about it. My article is about how that is the opposite in Hearthstone. And it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I think it's a really important theory that not a lot of people are applying at the moment, and it's certainly something that I wasn't applying until I actively thought about it and started writing about it. So the Magic paradigm is, aggro beats control, control beats mid-range, and mid-range beats aggro. And my argument is that it's actually the exact opposite in Hearthstone.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So aggro beats mid-range, mid-range beats control, and control beats aggro. Karmah, you haven't grown up on these other card games, so you're not tainted by their theories. So maybe I think you have an advantage in that sense, especially when they differ so much, like they do in this instance. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. I noticed this a while ago when I first started playing, that this is how the meta went.
Right.
When I first started playing Hearthstone, I noticed that the meta would shift. So there would be a lot of aggro decks, and then when there were a lot of aggro decks, it would switch to a lot of mid-rangey decks to counter the aggro decks. And then once there were a lot of mid-range decks, the control would come back, and then it would just be a continuous cycle. Again, I don't have perspective on that from a Magic standpoint because I've never played, unfortunately, but it is something that I have noticed and I agree with 100%.
I think I wanted to get it out there because I see a lot of people just sort of assume that this Magic theory holds true. People say, people are playing Face Hunter, just play a mid-range deck. And I've definitely seen that advice being handed out before, and I think it's blatantly wrong. And so the way we're building the meta at the moment is this paradigm where the control beats aggro, aggro beats mid-range. Because the way it works in Hearthstone is you only have to be 1 turn faster than your opponent, and being 1 turn faster than your opponent as an aggro deck is actually a lot easier because in Hearthstone than it is in Magic, because you get to attack the face whenever you want. You can decide to give up board control and start going for the face, or just keep doing that if you're Face Hunter. There you have the aggressor has the advantage because they get to choose who to attack, whereas in Magic the advantage is with the defender because they get to choose what to defend. So that's a massive difference. So
you're disagreeing with me? You think that control beats aggro and mid-range beats control?
In Hearthstone, yes.
So you think the opposite of what I do?
I thought you were agreeing with me. Wait, who's agreeing with me?
I think aggro loses to mid-range. Mid-range is beaten by control.
In Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought at first.
Okay.
But now thinking about it, though, mid-range, as a handlock player, mid-range beats me a lot more often than aggro does. So maybe I'm just completely wrong.
Well,
plus, if you look at Control Warrior, it loses to Druid and Shaman. I'm probably
right,
on
and they're mid-range. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, you're right. Maybe I am contorting. I agree with you, basically. I may have said the wrong thing.
No, that's fine. And I think a lot of people don't you don't have that base level, that foundation. In your head, for instance, that, I don't know, mid-range Druid beats Control Warrior fairly consistently. And you know the matchups. But if you have this really foundational theory at the bottom, then that can help you once you start knowing a little bit more about the decks. You don't have to keep all those decks in your head and know all of the individual matchups. You can just have a base level theory that can inform your choices about decks you don't know about yet. Yep. And this sort of thing doesn't get discussed enough, so I thought that was useful.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good way of, if you're just entering the scene, something to go by. Just archetypes, and start out very small and sort of expand your way into it. If you're coming from another card game, you're going to have more information on this. So just a way to sort of focus and get yourself a step slowly into the metagame and understand it more.
Mm. And the other thing in here is I didn't put combo as an archetype because I don't have a belief. I think there are combo decks, and I think the combos exist. There's the one in Druid, but I tend to see them as a win condition for decks, and then they fit into archetypes. So like you might see the combo in mid-range Druid. I think Patron is also like a mid-range combo strategy. So that's why I haven't put combo in there as well, because that's a typical Magic archetype.
Yeah, I think combos fit into. There's multiple combo decks. Like you have, like you said, they drew mid-range, and you have Malagos, which is more of like a control deck. You control the board till you draw Malagos, that type of thing.
Yep. So what else did we see on TempoStorm? Kamsh, what did you get up to this week?
I just did a little like talk sesh about what I think the best approach is to getting to Legend if you haven't before. And basically it's to not care about Hearthstone. And like do something else while you're playing, be emotionally detached. Don't focus in on everything because then you won't tilt as much and you just have to sort of play the slots. It's like playing slots, or if you're playing a good deck in the meta and you are making mostly optimal decisions, that you have a slightly higher than 50% advantage to win, so you just have to keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and do it over and over and over again. And if you're doing it mechanically like that, when you're playing like Zoot or Face Hunter or something, you should distract yourself somewhat. Like you should still make the best decisions, but you want to be somewhat distracted so you don't get tilted and only focus on the game. So at the very least, play music or like do what I do, where you like write papers and watch Netflix at the same time.
And you're like relying on muscle memory and that kind of thing.
Yeah, or go to parties
absolutely.
and.
Well, that's what it was weird because they cut off the YouTube video before you recommended playing on your phone at a party. So I don't know what happened there. There's some poor editing, I think.
So done right now.
Yeah, that's really awkward. Why would they cut it off there? That was like the best part of the video.
That was my favorite part. With you just like dancing, arms around a girl,
phone
on
in
either
the
side of her
background.
neck.
It was a great angle too. It was like from right behind his head. It was awesome.
One of my favorites. Alright. We saw on the weekend, last week, there was a bit of a Reddit post. Someone was theory-crafting about Shaman, essentially. And they made this post. It was titled, The Card That Shaman Needs. And this is the card.
Yeah,
the card is 1 mana for Energy Gain is the name of the card. It is a common. Draw a card for each overload you have.
Broken.
So busted.
So broken. I'm not even going to give that card a chance.
So you're not expecting this card to be adapted into the meta?
If it does, then Shaman... Well, theoretically, I've been wrong on many cards, but just looking at it, I think that card could be absurd. Just because of... It would be... I could kind of envision it like Patron Warrior again. The way Patron Warrior is now. Like, you can just overload yourself a bunch and then just draw your whole deck, right? Because there'd be 2 of it, so it'd be like Battle Rage to like a next level Battle Rage. Does that make sense? So you could just like example that I came up with off the top of my head without even thinking about it would be Earth Elemental on turn 6 and then Energy Gain, draw 3 cards and play a 7/8. I don't know. It just seems like something that, especially because it's 1 mana. Maybe if they made it 2 or 3 where it's hard to combo into a turn, then it would be a little more balanced. But because it's 1 mana, and usually Shaman, after overloading, will have like 1 mana left or something like that. I just think it would be extremely, extremely strong.
Okay, I think Battle Rage is a good comparison, because it's like the 1 card most like potential draw gain, other than like combos with like Northshire and Circle and things like that, or like Acolyte. So Battle Rage is 2 mana, which is bad, like worse than this card, and it requires you to have a board or at least some board control to actually be effective. Like you need damaged minions. This like you could just play like a Lightning Storm or something and draw 2 cards for 1 mana, and that's like the very like low end of the card. It's just so busted. It's insane.
You'd be minimum drawing, like if you were playing Shaman right now, I think you'd minimum draw 2 cards for that card. So it'd be a 1 mana draw 2 cards.
I think we're seeing more and more of the overload cards being pushed out of the Shaman decks, though, like because people are concerned that they're pushing them off curve and that kind of thing. So maybe providing an incentive to play more overload cards, is that a good thing?
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
go
that
off curve for card draw. That's like why the Warlock hero power exists.
Right. No, I think this card is. I think this card is making 2 points, right? And the 2 points are, as I just said, I think Overload is currently being underutilized, and it hasn't been fully explored as a mechanic, and as a consequence, I think people are prioritizing, things like piloted shredder over the 4 drops that have Overload because they know, or even 3 drops like Feral Spirits that have Overload because they know that they can. Knowing that you can hit your curve is so important for your tempo, right? And I think that people are steering away from the Overload cards because of the fact that they make you play off your curve. So I think that's point one. And then point two is that Shaman doesn't have a whole lot of draw. And I don't think that's the class's biggest weakness. But I think giving them some draw would go a long way to pushing the class up a little bit in terms of its tier level.
Honestly, I think Shaman maybe changing Lava Shock to deal 3 damage would do a lot for it. Just bumping it from 2 to 3 instead of giving it a bunch of draw. Just because it would be like Dark Bomb, basically, which is kind of what they're missing, right? They have the Rock Biter, but in order to do Rock Biter, you have to take face damage or remove a minion.
Right.
And then they have the Lightning Bolt, which overloads you, which is difficult. I think that a 2-mana spell that dealt 3 damage that also unlocked their crystals would go a long way for them.
Yeah, that's an interesting buff that I think we could see something like that happen in the future. It brings it in line with all the other classes, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Like, every class is almost 2 mana, like, minimum 3 damage dealt, unless they're, like, Wrath, Dark Bomb, Eviscerate, just name them off the top. Like, the classes that aren't struggling. Priest doesn't have one, they're struggling. Shaman doesn't have one, they're struggling. Warrior has War Axe.
Yep.
Mage has Frostbolt, and I think for Priest
Yeah.
you can almost consider Shadow Word Pain a little bit, just because it often does like the same thing for 2 mana.
Mm.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Yeah, that's true, I forgot about that card.
Yeah, so it's like Paladin and Shaman that are getting shafted a little bit.
Yeah.
So when we saw this card on Reddit, there was a thread posted along with it, and the highest voted comment was from a self-professed Shaman expert. He reckons he'd played to Legend 3 times in the last couple of months. Anyway, he said that his biggest problem with the class is this overload mechanic. But when we're talking about overload, I think like the cards are overcosted. I don't think it's a bad mechanic. Like, I think the idea of paying less for your cards now and being overloaded next turn, I think that's a cool idea. I just don't think it's been implemented properly. Like, if you talk about Lightning Storm, like, it's basically a Consecrate that has the opportunity to be slightly better, but it's for an extra mana. So maybe if they made it 2 and 2, you know?
Is that the only RNG board clear in the game right now?
Brawl is kind of RNG.
Oh yeah, Brawl.
But you can really stack the odds in your favor. You have a much better chance to like make.
Yeah. Brawl's not actually RNG. Like it
Right.
has RNG elements, but like you can always you just execute the last minion or whatever.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
Lightning Storm, like you can get super shafted.
But think about a 5-mana card that dealt 3 damage to your opponents at best. Like, that just seems like such a bad card, and that's their best board clear.
Yes.
Here?
Who's playing the... okay.
What's
All good.
happening?
Never mind.
I thought we disconnected again. But, yeah, I think, as I was saying before the stream went down, I think that Shaman really struggles with board clear more than anything. It seems like Blade Flurry is so good for Rogue and Shadow Flame for Warlock. And they just have, like, every class seems to have a really good board clear, at least one. And Shaman just doesn't have that. I mean, a 5-mana Lightning Storm that can possibly deal 3 damage, at best 3 damage to everything, is like a joke.
Yeah.
I just think that that's horrible. So...
Especially against Patron, where like the new number that you need for a board clear is about 3. Because that's what clears their commanders and the patrons. And the fact that you can't do it consistently or do it, like, make it sure that it's guaranteed that it's going to clear all their patrons really is a bit of a... Like, it's a huge downside to the class.
if they want to keep it like that, I think that one of the things that the problem is that that card seems like a tempo card, right? Kind of like Hellfire, where you want to kind of use that to swing, but because as an overload, you can't use Lightning Storm for tempo because it just hinders your next turn, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and that's why I don't think it's a bad mechanic. Like, I don't think Overload is a bad mechanic. I just think it's been poorly implemented on cards. Like, as we were saying before, with this Earth Elemental, like, it's 8 mana for a 7/8 taunt. I just don't feel like that's good. I think Blizzard overvalued the fact that you can play, like, playing cards off curve.
Yeah, they should make them. They should either buff them or reduce the overload.
Right.
Or give it a better way to get rid of overload, like a 3 damage lava shocker or something like that. But I think that drawing per overload is a little too strong. It just because you can just, it's just like, I don't know. You can just draw so much off of one turn. You could top deck one card and instantly be like your hand flooded, you know what I mean? Like, that's just seems like a broken mechanic. It seems like Unleash the Hounds or Battle Rage at the moment, which I think Battle Rage right now is broken, and that's a worse card than that card is.
But if any class were to have something unfair, I would give it to Shaman.
I think that Feral Spirit is good.
Really?
Like that, I think that card is justified. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
If I don't know, maybe a 2/3 3 health really doesn't do much, but you're playing 2 creatures for 3 mana. I don't know. I think that's fine.
I think the
maybe
fact
if
that
it was
cost you your turn 4, which is like the piloted shredder turn, or that's when you start playing your good cards on turn 4. I think that is more significant than the fact that you're playing 2/2/3s on turn 3.
Right, but that wasn't around then. Like, that's a new thing that they would have to buff it for.
Right.
Because they also have that new 4-drop, which is probably one of the best cards in their deck after Fire Elemental, that they also would not be able to play for that card. Maybe that should be a 2-mana card. That would make it good.
This Feral Spirit?
Yeah, because Shaman has so many 3-drops. So many. They have Hex, Lightning Storm, which overloads you. That card, which overloads you. They have the Overload guy for 3. So you can't, like, I don't know. That means turn 6 minimum you could combo with that guy. I don't know. Like, could you see it working where you could Shredder turn 4, then turn 5 you could play the Overload guy and Feral Spirit and kind of be doing a little bit better?
Yeah, I guess my other classes have unfair things, right? So like the Druid combo is pretty unfair. Even like Gromash in Warrior, I think that's pretty unfair. There are a few different classes have different levels of unfairness and different things that are basically combos that make them win out the game. And I'm just wondering, like Shaman, apart from Bloodlust, which we all know is like pretty much a worse Savage Raw, I think if I were going to give this card to any class, I would give it to Shaman, and I would be interested to see how it goes.
I could see it working really well for them.
Right.
I think it would just be such huge play. Like, turn 6 would be such a huge turn for them, I feel like. Because you could add up a lot of overload for turn 6, like Doomhammer, that might make Earth Elemental viable. And you could, minimum draw 2 cards and play something big on turn 6, which might be good for them. It would hold off your Fire Ellie for a turn as well. It'd be interesting to see how it worked,
Yeah.
But I feel like there's also a way where you could just make that card ridiculous. Like, just play all of your overloads just to cycle through your deck at times.
That's true. I can see that being a thing. Kamps, do you have any input on the Shaman?
I mean, Shaman's like the honest, hard-working man's class, so I don't really have that much to do with it. But I think it's a very consistent deck, so giving it like so it's not particularly good in the meta right now, but it's pretty consistent. You're never super reliant on card draws. The only element is like in mid shaman, like lightning storm is like the thing you're really worried about. Everything else is like pretty standard. Like you roll totems, and sure, like things like Crackle have RNG, but like your game plan is basically the same. Like that's why mid shaman can like almost always beat out control warrior because you just make totems. They can't deal with it. You play your mid range value minions. You move on with your life.
Yeah.
So giving it like an unfair card might give it a better matchup against other decks, but that might make it too strong. I think it's fine right now, and just like as the new cards get released, the meta shifts, it'll eventually rotate back in. And like Mech Shaman is a fair ladder deck; people can hit Legend with that, so it's not like the class is completely unplayable.
Maybe they'll get a really good legendary spell or something that'll help them with board clear in the future.
Yeah, that's possible. I heard Ben Brode said that Lightning Storm was originally supposed to be between 1 and 10 damage.
Jesus. The amount of salt that would create.
How disgusting is that? Yeah.
That would be great.
Wouldn't it? Well, it has an average of 5, so it's just like the best frickin' card.
Oh, I imagine it was differently costed, but I don't know. Still though, 1 to 10, like, yeah.
So
I don't know. I feel
how
like
differently
Shaman
costed would
needs-
it be? That's like Flame Strike. That's better Flame Strike, basically.
I think Shaman needs less RNG and more consistency.
Yeah, well, that's the reason
Because
why
otherwise
people
the
choose
class
Mech
is
Shaman,
either
right?
going to be... Right, because otherwise the class is going to be extremely good or just, like, completely shitty. Just based on how, like, your dice rolls. And you don't want a class that's just based on the roll of the dice. I think you want a class that you can consistently set up wins with. I don't know. At least my playstyle, anyway.
I don't think Shaman comes down to dice rolls that often, though. I think despite the fact that Lightning Storm and Crackle are very RNG-oriented cards, they're not like the kind of RNG that like reynad talks about, where like Animal Companion, Juggler actually decide the board like early. These are more cards where like you have to set them up, and like you can get them to do what you want them to do, sort of like Brawl. Like you can try to set up Lightning Storms where you don't like care that much about the roll, and you can also set up Crackles where they like deal the amount you want them to deal. And the rest of the deck is very consistent. I just think it's slightly worse than other decks, so it needs something.
That's true, but you can also set Knife Juggler to set up and miss and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but like the point reynad likes to make is that Animal Companion and Juggler decide board presence really early, and Lightning Storm's usually more of like a late game play, unless it's against aggro, and then rolling a 2 is good enough anyway. So Lightning Storm decides the game later than it does early, and deciding the game later with RNG like Rag is healthier for
That's
the game
true.
than deciding it early with like Juggler.
Right.
Yeah, that's true, because all the aggressive minions typically have 2 health. Yep, I agree.
Well, speaking of crafting cards and coming up with new cards for the Hearthstone meta, Brian Kibler had a bit of a crack this week. A few of us are Kibler fanatics, me and Karmah especially.
Love Kibler.
Here we go, and Karmah too.
Brian Kibler Gaming.
That's right. It's Brian Kibler of Brian Kibler Gaming. He, for those of you that don't know, he's a bit of a he's one of the most famous Magic players in the world, and is famous for he's also created a game called Soulforge. He's one of the lead developers on that, and he basically is just in a whole bunch of gaming, like does a whole bunch of it.
He's a really cool guy. Very nice.
Great guy. Has a great stream as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he created 5 cards that he would like to see, and basically, I think the theme when you go through here is like stuff that he wants to play with, and he wants to see as enablers for the strategies that he wants to enable. So he his first card was Ruby Protector, which is the dragon with taunt, a 5/6 for 6.
Or a 5/6 for 2 or 4. Basically, is how I read that card.
Oh right, okay, yep, because you're playing consort.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like a help against aggro paladin card, which would also fit in other decks, kind of.
Right. Yeah, I think it's good. It needs to be at a casting cost other than 5 because the 5 slot is so clogged. I think you would possibly still play Sludge Belcher along with this, because they could Hunter's Mark this and you're kind of screwed.
Druids would be a nightmare with this card, I think.
Why is
Like,
that?
like the curve that like Druid could do. They could do Druid of the Claws, Belchers, this, and then Ancient of War, and it would be like crazy Tauntville.
Tauntville, Taunt
Like
City.
so much health. Ancient of War has 10, this has 6, Belcher has 7, Druid of the Claw has 6. There's just like so much taunting going on. I don't know. I could see Druid just going crazy with this card.
Yeah,
So
I think.
flavorful to have Black Knight kill a dragon. That's just like insane.
It would certainly bring Black Knight back, I think.
Yeah.
And it would also bring dragons in. So I think it would be an interesting card to see, for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good card. I think we haven't seen enough dragons. I think we saw a lot of experimentation with dragons, but I don't think anyone really got a good list. I think we're still waiting on something that's actually viable. And I think this would go some way to making it viable. And it's not overpowered.
It's close.
Do you think?
I don't know. I don't think it's overpowered. I just am fearful of Dragon Druid looking at it right now. I don't know. Just off the top of my head. The amount of, I don't know. It just seems like Druid with all its health and all its taunts and its curve could be very, very, very strong with a card like this. So it would be interesting to see. I don't think initially it would be overpowered, but I do think it would help out Paladin, Dragons, or just Dragons in general a lot. Because they are missing, like, that X Factor 6-drop, because the 4 health Volcanic Drake I don't think cuts it. I've tried it a bunch, and it just gets removed super easy by like a 2 mana spell, basically. So
I think this was like when we were talking last week with reynad about how there are no dragons with heal or taunt. I think we need a dragon with heal or taunt, and it may as well be something like this.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Heal or taunt is something definitely needed.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one, Flash of Light, which is 3 mana for restore 6 health to your hero and draw a card. In Paladin.
Did Kibler name these like himself? These
Yeah, I
are
think
some
so.
pretty awful names.
I think they are.
Flash
Kibler
of
named.
Light.
Kibler created them all, so
Get flashed.
get flashed, bro. So his reasoning for getting it in was because Paladin doesn't have, like, they have a few heals, but they're not till late game. Like lay on hands is really something that gets played, at 8 mana. They play Antique Healbot, and he was thinking like that's not very flavorful. Like you should be playing class cards to heal yourself as a Paladin, and why not have something like this that you can be played slightly earlier?
This card, to me, I like the idea. I don't know, it just seems slow. Like, I don't know. You could use the heal, but at the same time, how good is Muster? I mean, if this is for aggro, wouldn't you consider Muster to be more of a better play just to deal with the board instead of just the health gain? Or because it has a 2 mana restore 6 health if you're looking for just health gain. I guess he wants the card draw as well for 1 mana. I don't know. It just seems a little bit slow, but I wouldn't say... I think it could work. I don't know. It seems a little slow to me.
I think at 3 mana, like, I want to body and not draw a card. Like, if I want to play this on turn 3, I don't think drawing a card against aggro... Like, you don't deal with their board at all, and you're probably taking that same 6 health again next turn, because you haven't put a taunt out, you haven't affected the board in any way. And so I'm wondering if it's meant to be a turn 3 play, like, why... Like, it doesn't actually really help you against aggro, is my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I just think it's a little too slow. I'm trying to think of, like, Paladin has a lot of 3-drops already, right? Like, it has Muster that uses to counter aggro, it has Elder Peacekeeper.
Yep.
There's another 3-drop in there. I can't think of it that they usually have in as well.
They've got Divine Favor for card draw. Sometimes Coghammer.
Maybe not. Maybe those are... But that's 4 3-drops.
Right.
Typically. So, I don't know. 3 mana is like a tough one to get in. Paladins typically stacked with 3s.
I'm told the card names are actually from WoW, so I apologize. I'm sure they're great names. As far as the card goes, I definitely agree that it's too slow. Just because you don't want to play it on turn 3, so it ends up being like a late game heal anyway, even though it costs less mana. The cycling's fine, so I think it'd be fine, but it would definitely shine more in like mid-range matchups than it would against aggro, since it's just a little bit slow. I think you need something like obviously they can't have armor, but like that's why shield block is a lot better than this card against aggro because you can actually build up the armor. So it'd have to be like prevent damage or something like that, or it would just have to be like yeah, basically that.
Mm-hmm.
There might even be an application in just restore 6 health, rather than to your hero. Being able to heal a Dr. Boom or something, or a Tyrion even, might be useful.
I think it's a little bit awkward then because then it's just Holy Light with a card draw stapled
Right.
for an extra mana, and he probably wanted to avoid that like in design.
Right.
Yeah, this, I don't know. I can see him wanting to try and bridge to the Consecrate turn with this card. I just think it's a little too slow to cut it. Because I think, again, what he's trying to accomplish here is to try and make Paladin better against aggro because it struggles so much early. But I think that Shielded Minibot, Muster, and cards like that have done a whole lot to helping against aggro. I think Paladin's just one of those cards where you're going to always have to... Paladin's one of those classes where you're always going to try and have to find the balance between having anti-aggro and late game.
Right. Okay, next one. Encroaching
Those are the
Ooze.
broken ones.
So 4 mana for a 3/5. Minions with charge cannot attack the turn they enter play. Basically, remove the word charge from any other minion.
Or prevent Druid from comboing you, ever.
Yeah. I think Patron too. Notice that has 3 attack.
Yeah, that... I hate Druid probably more than anybody else in the game. And I hate the combo, but if you took combo away from Druid, they would struggle so much. They would just way too much. Like, maybe I think it would be more balanced if it dealt 12, kind of like Grom, instead of dealing, 14. I think that's a bit better, maybe, to fix that. But like, taking away the combo from them with a single card that's not only a good card, but also removes a win condition is just too much.
This card is isn't even a tech card. It's just played in every deck. It stops Wolf Rider, Arcane Golem, stuff like that. It stops if Oil Rogue's still playing, Southsea Deckhand stops that. It stops Grom, which isn't a card that needs fixing. It stops Grim Patron, which and it has the 3 attack. It stops combo like we talked about. There's so many cards that it's just good against, and it's a 4 mana 3/5 that it's main deckable in so many decks. This is just an example of a tech card being aggressively it's so aggressively costed. It has such good stats for a tech card that it just belongs in every deck.
Right.
It's like if MC Tech were a 4/4.
If you drew that against Face Hunter, you win straight up. If they didn't have a board, they would have no way to kill it. It would be because they would play their charge creatures or try and get bored, and if you had removal, the thing would just stay up forever, and it would be almost not irremovable, but it would cost so much of their resources and remove so much of their deck that it's just... I didn't even think of facing
Unleash and Huffer, this is so busted.
Oh my gosh, Huffer.
But
and
he wants to
traces
stop
Huffer
Huffer.
too.
He's so cute. He just wants to hug your face.
Oink oink.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's Taz Dingo, and he basically has taunt anyway. He's exactly costed, and then he hoses a whole bunch of strategies. I think I think there would be some strategy around when you would play it, because you obviously sort of want to wait till it's sort of turn 8, turn 9 when it's profitable for the Druid to be comboing. So I think there would be some play around. You wouldn't just drop it on turn 4 every game, unless you're playing against Face Hunter. But I agree. I think it's the stats are too good, and so is the ability for the mana cost that it's at.
Maybe if it was a 8 mana 3/5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even that's 8 mana is too much.
Mana?
Maybe 6.
8 mana would be a lot. Yeah.
6 or something.
I reckon even just
Or,
making it 4 so the druid can swipe it, and then
Or
it
a
could be
2-mana 2/1 or something like that, maybe? Maybe
Right.
that's too weak. I don't know.
I think it probably needs a
Difficult.
combination of like a higher attack, a higher mana cost, or a not as good stats.
Yeah, the stats are too good. Like those are prime 4-drop stats, combined with a card that's really, really strong.
Yep. Okay, Landro Longshot. So
It
he's
gets worse and worse.
3 mana
So
for
awesome.
a 2/4. Hero powers may not be used.
Sea Hunter or like Handlock. I don't know. I find these interesting. I would like to see them like throw it in because it's hard for me to think of all the possibilities at once. But immediately, right, you first think of Hunter,
Right.
and Hunter would just lose. Like that, they rely like their whole deck synergizes based on their hero power. So not like I don't know. I actually think that card is not as bad as the other one. But I don't know. I think that this one, just because it's a 2, maybe you can make it a 2/3. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking of all the situations. Camps can enlighten me, but I think it's not. I don't think it's as bad as the Ooze. I think it has a better shot of being a card than the Ooze.
I don't know. So if like Warlock or Priest or like Freeze Mage are like in top deck mode and they need a ping or heal or tap for cards, and they like you play this, you just win the game, right? And then like Hunter you already talked about. So that's 4 classes where in a lot of scenarios you just play this and you win the game, and it's a 3-drop and it has fine stats. And like it's even a huge tempo play, right? Because if like a control warrior has 2 armor, you can play this and then they can't armor up shield slam it on their turn 3. Or like things like that. Like the stats just make it so egregious. And then like even the decks where the hero power doesn't matter a ton, like so you get a 3-mana 2/4 that still like potentially affects their like line of play. Like it's just it pushes so many classes out. And like again, if Warlock and Hunter and decks like that are still being played, this is like an auto include in every deck, right? Because it's 3 mana, so
But
it's just super meta warping.
But you have to be a deck that doesn't care about your hero power, firstly, and it's a legendary, so you can only play one of in your deck, so you're not guaranteed to draw it by turn 3.
Yeah, I like the only having it be one of. Is the Ooze a legendary as well? I didn't catch
no,
that.
it's
it looked like an epic, right? So
epic,
there's
yep.
2. I do like the one of. I think that's a big difference, and it being turn 3, it would really mess up Handlock a lot. If you like coin this out,
Right.
it would mess up their curve a bunch, and late game it would help a bunch against Hunter. I don't know. It would definitely be interesting. I think that it would have less of a dramatic effect than you guys or that Camps is thinking. But it would be maybe I'm underestimating its value. But I think it would be. I don't think it's that dramatically overpowered. But I do think it would be just strong.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Karmah. Yeah, my struggle is where would you put it? Like, what deck would it be meta defining?
Every deck.
But if every deck wants to play it, then no deck wants to play it because if
You
you
don't
put
play
it in every
Face Hunter and Warlock. Every other deck you want to play it in.
So Face Hunter and Warlock don't deserve to have isn't it good to have a 2/4 taunt basically against a Face Hunter?
I would play it in Handlock. I would play that in
Okay,
Handlock.
well that's like the thing though, is if you have it, you're the one that gets to choose when to play it, so you get to play it when it's advantageous to you, and then they can't remove it or like tap into theirs because they can't hero power. Like obviously it's not like the argument like you're trying to make, I feel like, is like it can be played in every deck, so it's not unfair. But like I feel like it would just be meta warping and unhealthy rather than like it would be like crushingly unfair.
I think there's cards like Thorson, like I think it looks like quite overpowered, but once you get down to it, like it's a 2/4, you can remove 2/4s fairly easily.
What about
think
making
everyone
it
would wanna
3
play it.
health? 3 health might make a big difference. That way it dies to 2 mana cards.
Right. Yeah, I think that could
But that
be
would
a way to...
also maybe take away a lot of its value. I don't know.
But you can't even like Dark Ball, or you can't even like Frostbolt ping it or like Wrath hero power because you can't hero power.
Sure.
Right, so
So
if you
it's
just
a
made
lot
it
harder
3
to remove
health, it
than
would
it
be...
looks.
If you made it 3 health, that way it would die to Dark Bomb, it would die to Implosion half the time, it would die to... but then it would make it useless, so I don't know.
Yeah. I think I would want to play with this card like I did with Thorison. I think it's like
Yeah, I would like to test it as well.
I think it'd be interesting. And then the last card here, 2 mana, is called Mind Flay. Look at your opponent's hand and choose a spell card. That player discards that card.
See, I think this is crazy. I think this is the craziest one of them all. Which I don't think you guys agree with, so I'm interested to hear. But I think being able to just see your opponent's hand, and then that alone, I think, is a crazy good card. Like, just being able to see your opponent's hand, I think, is really strong. And then being able to take something out of their hand and put it into yours. Like, it could be... I don't know, imagine a priest just looking and taking your Shadow Flame, or...
Sorry, they discard it. Like, you don't get the card as the priest.
Oh, you don't get the card. Okay. Even so, I still think it makes it a little better, but I still think that is.
Kamsh, what do you think
Like,
about this one? This one has a fairly direct parallel with a magic card. A couple of magic cards, actually.
Yeah, I think just because this is the only way to get information about hand in Hearthstone, it's gonna have it's gonna have a higher power level than like the Magic versions somewhat. It'll definitely have a perceived higher power level, but there are some matchups where this won't matter at all. There are times you can whiff and this doesn't contribute to your board at all. Like, who cares if you know what's in their hand if you can't do anything about it? Like, if you're gonna lose anyway to what's in their hand, that information doesn't matter. So this is more of a late game card where you have board parity, and in the late game, if they don't have that many cards in their hand, it has more of a chance to whiff. So I think this card is worse than it looks.
Yeah, maybe I'm overestimating.
Yeah, I think I agree. And the fact that it only can target spells, I think, ups the fairness level of the card. I think in Hearthstone, knowing your opponent's hand is more valuable than it is in Magic, because you can see where their cards are, and you can track them, so you know exactly what cards they're going to be playing. So I think that's an important point. And then also the fact that you can only take a spell. I think to me that means that, yeah, it's trying to stop those combo decks, and you take one half of the combo away.
The reason I think taking a spell is so volatile is because if you hit on that card, usually spells because they're so few and far between, decks are becoming more and more minion based, and spells are becoming better and more valued, that you can just completely alter a game if you take away a spell, like a board clear card, which are like, they're basically spells right now are removal. So you would basically be taking away your opponent's removal for 2 mana if you hit, and I think that's just too strong.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I think this will never be implemented either, because Blizzard has explicitly stated that they're not into these effects. They're not really keen on this.
I wish they would at least consider them.
Right. Well, I think...
Because I do think...
Sorry,
I think
go
he
ahead.
has the right idea. I just think he has cool ideas. I can see what he's trying to do, and I hope Blizzard considers the ideas and twists them a little to their flavor, like they've done with dragons, and just like they usually are pretty receptive to the community. Blizzard is very good at that, and I think that something is going to change for Shaman, like we were discussing earlier, and I think that maybe if they take some of this flavor and put it into their own, cool little designs, I think something like that is maybe on the horizon.
Yeah. I think in a card game where you have no instant speed way to react to your opponent, proactively going into their hand and taking one of their cards out is one of the best ways to go about it. I think it works in the sense of how they've got all their mechanics working and how the game functions as a whole. And so I think something like this is the space that I hope they don't give up on it. I think this is a space that could be explored.
If you have like a huge tournament and you're playing like a best of seven, and this card was a thing, you could just play a priest deck with a ton of card draw and just throw the game to scout whichever one of your opponent's decks you really wanted to. Just like try to draw into two of these and just scout them. Just mulligan for them super aggressively, and then you have a huge advantage in the next game.
Yeah, but then you lose a game.
It also provides a huge advantage in the game that it's in, too. Like, if you know your opponent has, altering cards like BGH, or if you're playing another priest like Light Bomb, although you might assume that they have it, knowing that they have it and assuming that they have it completely, like, you can just pick and choose what you want killed because you know what they have. Does that make sense? Like, it's like stream sniping to the next level.
Hand snapping.
Yeah, but you're also playing like one of the worst classes right now. So like it's important to remember this could only be played in priest, and you'd have to like win with priest to make it worth it. So I don't think this would like completely ruin tournaments or ladder.
No, I agree.
I just think it would be interesting.
Well, I think like what sets the good players apart from the average is that they do play around the opponent, what they might have, and they'll, to the best of their ability, they'll play around as many things as possible. So I think knowing for sure what the opponent has it'll only affect those middle range players, I think, a bit more in terms of how they play. And even then, like the middle range players are the people that mightn't even like hand track or that kind of thing, or even really remember. Like they see it once at the beginning on turn 2 and then don't remember what other cards are there.
Yeah,
This
I
card's
agree.
a huge trap though, because I was just gonna say, if you like take a board wipe and then you're like, oh, I don't need to play around this, or like they don't have board wipes, and they just top deck it and play it. Like you can't just put faith in what they have in their hand, because then you still have to like hedge against some things. So like it's not even like the information isn't even that useful, especially if they're drawing multiple cards, which is a common theme in like Hearthstone nowadays.
Right.
And I think one of the great things that I enjoy about Hearthstone, that I've learned from playing, is that like being able to read the way your opponent's playing, and from that inferring on what cards they have in their hand, and like how far can you extend onto the board because you think that your opponent has removal in their hand, or how far you want to push because you're reading like the plays that based on their plays what they have in their hand. And I think that that's one of my favorite parts of the game, and I'd hate to see that taken away by just a specific class, but
Yeah. Alrighty, I think we've explored those. Just for those of you who came in late, those were 5 cards by Brian Kibler, who he thought might improve Hearthstone. Some expansions that he'd like to see. So they are not real cards. They will not be implemented, but they're ideas that are interesting to explore, I think. I think that's probably about all we've got time for today. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. It has been an absolute pleasure to do episode 8 of TempoCast with you. Perhaps if you guys would like to go around and quickly do a social media shout out, let people know where they can find you if they want to see more of you.
Okay. Yeah, my Twitter handle is on the podcast. Is at TheComsh if you want to follow me on there. My stream is twitch.tv/TheComshHS. Now that I'm graduating, I'll be trying to do like 8-hour streams starting Monday every day. So we'll see if anything happens with that. I'm an 8 times legend player, so I'm a little bit competent. And I'm also not like the worst person on the planet, so it can't be like too awful. Spend like 5 minutes there. If you really hate it, you can like send me hate mail. And then check out my articles on TempoStorm.com.
Dude, don't oversell yourself. Karmah, how about you?
I stream almost every weekday at Karmah. It's like my name on chat. It's Karmah is my Twitch name. You can follow me on Twitter, though. I don't have to spell it, and it's not confusing because they have it so lovely put on the screen right below me. And I tweet there multiple times when I'm live, so if you're interested in seeing me, just go ahead and follow me on Twitter. And yeah, I have a YouTube channel, but you can find all that stuff from my Twitter and from my Twitch channel.
Awesome. And I am Nocturne. That is my Twitter handle just there. You can follow me. That's probably the best way to get notes about streams. At the moment, I stream on Nocturne HS. Also, very irregularly, but as I said, in a couple of weeks I'll be picking that schedule up, and we're going to do something pretty cool with it. So I'll be hoping to do about 5 days a week. But yeah, the best way at the moment is currently to follow me on Twitter so that you know. We write articles for a little website called TempoStorm.com, so feel free to check that out. As we were talking about before, it's got some new content, and it's taking a really exciting direction with more sort of a gaming side in general rather than strictly Hearthstone stuff. So there's some interesting stuff there. Please check that out. We will see you next week at the same time. Until then, stay legendary.